All right, Shad Dale's back here on the Dales Report, and happy to be joined for part two with Daniel Cohen, CEO of PharmaDrug, who joined us earlier this week with some updates on the Johns Hopkins University and the agreements with the Terasaki Institution. Wanted to have you back on and want to get an update on the cephalosporin programs in both the COVID and cancer domains, particularly COVID, knowing new variants are expected to expand as we head into the fall. So where does that sit right now, Daniel?
So obviously we're using we're taking cephalosporin, and we have two separate programs going on. And the first one that we're going to be going to the FDA with is for COVID. And so we've more or less finished the document, which is the pre-IND submission. We will be submitting it to the FDA in the next week or so, literally. We just, we had finished the document. We were put in touch with a really high caliber FDA consultant specifically for COVID. So we showed the submission to them. It's about a 100-page document.
Yep.
So we wanted someone else to take a look at it. And so we're going to be submitting it next week. After that, you get 2 to 3 weeks, you get your response, which is a meeting date for the FDA to come back and tell you their feedback on the drug and its potential use for COVID. So basically they come back and they tell you, what do they want a clinical trial to look like? Do you have to do a little bit more toxicity work, or do we want this done or that done? Basically the details so that you can file your IND to start a clinical trial. They also tell you whether they think you should be going into phase 1 or you should be going into phase 2. So it's all of that information that you get from that meeting. So we submitted in the next week or so, which means we're going to get all of that information back to us in November, because it's 60 days from when they give you the meeting is when the meeting maximum, that period of time when you get that meeting, and that meeting is where you get all that information. So once we get all that information, then we prepare our IND package, which is our official submission to start a clinical trial for cephalosporin, our version of cephalosporin and COVID. So where that all is getting started, the timeline gets started in September. So while there's 70 years worth of safety data for cephalosporin, we have done some work, or the people that developed our version of cephalosporin has done some safety work. So we believe there's enough safety work being done, that's already been done, in animals to be able to go straight into humans. But, you need to hear that from the FDA, right? So that's what we're working on right now.
So speculating here, could you possibly jump right into a phase 2 or even a phase 3, like say a Revive Therapeutics, given cephalosporin's history of use in Japan combined with the current state that we're in?
Yeah, I don't think phase 3, but I think phase 2 is very feasible. Very feasible. Yeah, definitely. Given the, phase 1 is really about safety, right? And we're very comfortable with the safety history on the API, which is cephalosporin itself. And there's been some work done on our version of cephalosporin in non-human primates as well. So we believe that we have enough data. That being said, you never know to what extent the FDA is going to rely on data from Japan or not, right?
Of course.
And so that's a little bit of the black box. But
I'd be curious to see how that all unfolds.
Yeah, we believe that we have enough data to be able to go into a phase 2A.
Interesting. Next topic, let's discuss your recent trips overseas. You previewed investors in our last interview that management was headed to Europe. Hope you guys stayed out of trouble. But you want to discuss the whole range of issues related to your flower distribution business in Germany and psilocybin truffle operations in the Netherlands. So can you provide us with an update on the progress and, I guess, decision outcomes that were accomplished while you were there?
Yeah, so on the German side, it was very good to get out there. I mean, because of COVID, I hadn't been able to be out there in over a year. And so it was very good to be able to sit down with the whole management team.
You still see a lot of lockdowns?
Yeah, it depends on the country. We were in a couple of countries, and definitely Hamburg and Germany was more locked down or stricter than we felt Amsterdam was. But in general, it was still similar to Canada in terms of the amount of lockdowns. So Germany was good. So we've come to a conclusion that we believe it's time to move into to oils. So we're pivoting into oils.
And why is that?
So if you look back in 2019 on the data that we have, which is the data from all the insurance companies, the flower market was almost 2.5 times the size of the oil market. Mm-hmm. And the oil market was almost all synthetic oils, namely a synthetic THC oil called dronabinol. As of Q1 2021, that shifted to the point where, the flower market was only 1.2 times the size of the oil market. And that oil market was only 80% dronabinol, which means that the full spectrum THC oils are just starting to come in, and they're really growing at a fast rate. But in the meantime, dronabinol is still growing. The synthetic oil is also growing. That whole category is growing. And so we believe that, we did a bit of work. We got that shipment of inventory from that, Canadian-based global LP. We went to market with it. We didn't feel that we had the right relationship in terms of, the marketing support or the freedom to be able to market the product the way we want to. Supply issues were also a concern for us. We decided that, we signed that agreement several months ago to be able to have our own full spectrum THC oil under our own brand. We'll control the supply chain. We'll be able to control the marketing. That's moving forward in early Q4. We're about to finalize. We've come to a handshake agreement. We're finalizing the papers to be able to have our own branded dronabinol from a German producer. So that should be starting in Q4. So come Q4, we're going to have our own branded high THC oil. Okay. We're going to have initially a third-party dronabinol, but pretty soon after a PharmaDrug branded dronabinol. And in Q1, we're going to have a balanced CBD THC, full spectrum THC oil under our own brand. So, the shift comes from flowers. We're going to continue with the bedrocan, but we're going to be moving mostly into oils at a point where we think more oils are growing at a quicker rate. There's still a major growth.
Why do you think it's growing at
the THC oils themselves?
Yeah.
Sorry?
I was going to say, why do you think oils are growing at a lot quicker rate than anything else right now?
I think that what was holding back the oils were just supply chain. Not many, there wasn't much oil coming into the country. And I think that people are realizing that, a lot of the flower users, medical flower users, are not necessarily the people with serious medical indications. Right. When it comes to actually being sick and needing, THC to help, soothe your pain or whatever other side effects you have from whatever sickness you have, oil makes more sense. Oil is more medicine, right? And so I think doctors are understanding that more and more. And in the meantime, the real supply is coming from the synthetic oil, which is dronabinol. But the dronabinol seems to have a little bit more of a sedative effect that's closer to an oxycontin type of situation. And that they're, slowly but surely they're starting to realizing that the full spectrum THC oil are more natural and more effective. So we're seeing a massive growth, quick growth rate in oils overall. But within that, we're just starting to see the THC's natural full spectrum oil starting to take off. And we believe that we can be a real player in the introduction of that supply chain. Or the broadening of that supply chain in Germany. And we are finally set up in a situation where we're not going to be having to sell someone else's product. We'll sell our own product. It'll have our own brand, our own name on it. We'll be able to control the supply chain, and we'll be able to control the marketing the way we see fit. So we're excited about that. And all that initiative starts in early Q4.
There we go. Finally, I know you have a lot of research programs. I wanted to ask you this. You got a lot of research programs in place. Yeah. But, and you may agree or disagree with me when I say this, but it's not necessarily, or you don't necessarily have a signature program that defines your research efforts. So do you expect that to emerge over the next 12 months with SORAIL fully integrated, orphan drug designation achieved, and some of the preclinical programs going to clinic?
Well, two things. I do think that our glaucoma research is actually, our signature work.
It? Okay.
Yeah, that's us doing that. That's us spearheading that. There was some literature on DMT and its potential effect on glaucoma, but nobody has taken that and tried to develop it with a specific delivery mechanism and go to the FDA to get that approved. So that is, I believe, I think there's a misunderstanding that is our signature program when it comes to psychedelics. So we have that there. On the sufferenting side, we're developing too. We're going to have the sufferenting and the COVID, and we haven't talked about the cancer. But if you ask me, if you put me up against the wall and you said I had to choose one program that I'm the most excited about, I think the sufferenting and cancer is groundbreaking.
Yeah.
You know, we're doing the second stage in a 3-stage preclinical program to show how effective safrarentin could be for esophageal cancer and other cancers as well. The first one, we did 60 cancers, and 20 of them were significant versus chemo. Several of them were just as significant, if not more than chemo. And the last one, which is esophageal cancer, which is the one we have orphan drug designation on, is very significant here. It was at the same equivalent dosage, 5 times more effective than chemo.
It's incredible.
That's number one. Number two, one of the biggest problems with chemo and esophageal cancer is the fact that the esophageal cancer develops chemo resistancy. We're now doing that. We're in stage 2. We're going to have the answer in about 2 to 3 weeks, maybe 4 weeks. In September, we will have the results from that study, which will show the safrarentin combined with chemo. And that's where I think is groundbreaking. Then we'll do the animal model, and then we'll start that whole pre-IND program. But I think that's extremely signature here. Esophageal cancer has been on the rise, and there is no proper treatment. The majority of people who get esophageal cancer die within 5 years. So that is an unmet need. We have orphan drug designation already granted to us, and we're doing the work, the preclinical work here, to get us to put us in a really strong position for a clinical trial with the FDA. And we have a world leading authority on esophageal cancer that's advising us on it. So that's a major significant signature program.
Well said. It continues to amaze me, though, the research that's being conducted. These diseases that have been lingering for generations are now potentially could change everything. And I think that's the biggest thing to obviously look forward to, is it not?
Yeah.
All right. So we head into Q4, and I know we're wrapping up summer, but enjoy the rest of these days. I know it's going to be a busy couple of months, but I think a lot of investors are looking forward to this, but we appreciate you checking in this week and give us a pretty good update on everything. Okay.
And on next time we'll update you where we have some developments coming in the next couple of weeks for Super Smart, and specifically our efforts in the US. We're going to be launching a unique brand new product for functional mushrooms in the US in the coming weeks. So we'll see that news release out soon.
Time to buy some stock.
Yeah, I think so.
Full disclosure, I have a position in the company, but yeah, good stuff.
So do
All
I.
All right. Thanks, Daniel. Appreciate your time.
Thank you. Take care.
Take care.